I mean, that lesson, both of those, the sense of community that we had at that time, or that you had at that time, and even things have changed over the years. You know, as people, the neighborhoods are more spread out. You know, you now you see your neighbor. Maybe you wave, but you don't know your neighbor's names. But you know, I know when I was younger, I was kind of right on the tail end, where if your neighbor saw you doing something, they would definitely tell your parents. And I'm sure by the time when my mom was little, and I'm sure when you were younger, the neighbor might actually even whip you too.
Oh yeah, and the thing about respect, and that comes with respect, because one, all the children in the neighborhood knew everybody's parents, and the parents in the neighborhood, they knew your situation. So if they know you hadn't eaten, or you know, they know what's going on with your family, so they tell you, come on in and get something to eat. And it wasn't like, that wasn't an uncommon thing. Another thing is that the parents in the neighborhood, if they seen you in a certain area that you didn't belong in, they would immediately chastise you. They knew, you know, okay, you hang around older men, and you know, they know these men that don't mean good in terms of what they're doing, but they also know that they're not going to force you to do something you don't want to do. So your attraction to them, they might tell you, you know, boy, get away from here. But when you see the parent of them same people, and they come and say, it's a big difference, because you know that parent, once she gonna beat you, or he gonna beat you, then he gonna go home and tell your parents, and your parents gonna beat you.
Yeah,
so you put more, you had more fear of them, and more respect to them. So you automatically, like, you see them like, you know, one family in my neighborhood was the Dunmores. She had a lot of sons, and when you see Miss Dunmore, as soon as she call you by your name. Or like the police, and we was talking about this the other day, the officer friendly, they call them officer friendly now, but you had officers that was walked the beat, they walked that same neighborhood, they knew you. And it was crazy, because they not only did they know you, but they'd ask you, say, who's your parents? You know, oh, my father, so-and-so. Oh, you so-and-so's son. And take you to the house, because they had that kind of relationship in the neighborhood. So, you know.
Yeah, at that time, there wasn't the same kind of fear of police that there are now, so much, because you know, again, sense of community. Everyone was kind of working together, raising their family, raising their community together. And so, okay, so then you were working on the paper route, and then a point in time came where you decided, you know, school wasn't for you. What was?
Well, and see what happened, and in the transition that we moved from D.C. to Maryland, and we moved from D.C. to Maryland. You know, this is the first time I ever experienced racism, because even though you see, you know institutional racism exists, but to experience it individually or in your face is a different thing. And when you're living in the projects and public housing, you know, you insulated from like a lot of things going on around in the world. So, you know, you very rarely did you see any white people in your neighborhood. You had a lot of people that were like of Jewish descent, and they primarily owned the businesses, but they, you know, you didn't look at them no different than you. They did business, that's how they did things, and you understood that to be the case. But then when we moved out in Maryland,
where'd you go?
Moved out in Suitland, Maryland.
Okay.
And this was like right on the hill, this right before Dr. King was assassinated. Because Dr. King was assassinated and we're out there, and now it's a difference. I remember distinctly, I went to the store, and the guy, it was running the 7-Eleven, he asked me, like, what are you doing in here? I'm like, I'm paying, you know, I'm trying to get some candy. He said, well, hurry up and get you know, your in-ass out of here. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, you know. I felt some kind of way, which led me to ultimately go back down there and start stealing everything in the store, because that gave me an attitude, okay, oh, you got a problem with me, I got a problem with you. And so that right there caused me to ultimately drop out of school. Because when I went through the 9th grade, it was good. But when I got in the 10th grade, and in high school, now it's a little bit more rigid. And the teachers are a little bit more like direct and confrontational. And I remember distinctly one time we was in English class, and we had a spelling test. I ain't studied for the spelling test, but this white girl behind me was giving me, like, pass me the words, and I was, you know, I was spelling, and the teacher must have knew, And instead of her saying like, calling me out in the hallway and she chastised me right in front of the class and did it in the most belligerent and hostile way, which caused me to respond in the most belligerent and hostile way. When she says, you're cheating, you don't know, you're dumb. And I said, okay, you right where I want you at right now. I said, man, like F you and left. And that right there, that opened the door for when I went back and tell my mother and them. And mind you, I got 2 other sisters going to the same school. One above me, she in everything. She's like the drill major. She done acclimated. I'm like, I'm hating this school. The one under me, me and her had the same attitude. Only difference is she wasn't as hostile. She didn't feel as hostile at the point I felt. Mm-hmm. So, and it's during the period where you had like a lot of civil rights and racial unrest, and Dr. King get killed. Now it's a different story. So that led me to drop out of school.
What school was that in Maryland?
That was Suitland Senior High School.
Suitland High School. Okay.
Yep,
so right on Silver Hill Road. I don't know if were they still on Silver Hill Road then?
Yep. And I rode by. I rode by it a couple of times, and when you look at how it's changed, but back then it was. Remember they had busing. You had all that stuff was going on. So the Civil Rights Bill passed. Now you have to go. Schools have to be integrated, and a lot of schools didn't want to be integrated. Suitland was already integrated, but it was segregated in terms of the administration. They didn't, you had a lot of, like I said, a lot of racism. So that ultimately led me to I couldn't make the adjustment. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't that, you had other black kids and minorities and people of color that made the adjustment. I just couldn't make the adjustment. Mentally, I couldn't make the adjustment. And not making the adjustment mentally had a lot to do with, one, I didn't want to be out there. I wanted to go. I wanted to go to vocational school. I knew I was getting ready. I was in 9th grade. I knew ultimately I was going to, be in high school, and I wanted to go to a vocational school. Back then they had Chambers Vocational School over there off of Pennsylvania Avenue. I wanted to go there, but when I got out here, they had Crossland Senior High, mm-hmm. was the premier vocational school, and we took a trip out there one time. And the floors were so clean, and now, in comparison to what it looked like now, the grass was manicured, the floors were clean, and we went in there, and it was vocational school, and everything in there was lily white. So I didn't even feel like that, even if I could get in there, I would be able to get in there. And the instructors, they pretty much was like talking to everybody but us. So, that shaped my thinking. Mm-hmm. That ultimately led me into making more bad decisions.
Okay, so but it sounds like the real precipice of the real reason that you actually had all this friction happen when you were kind of uprooted, good, bad, ugly, out of the community which you knew and were raised in Parkland, Southeast, and then going into Suitland.
Right, and that's really the genesis of it, and not being prepared mentally. Like I said, we're moving. My father, we got a house, we got grass, we got a fence, we got we got like we starting to become a middle class lifestyle, and so really I should have been jumping for joy, but because of you in the suburb and you don't have the same sense of community, and everything is distance. And when I start networking with people of your own color, then they're upwardly mobile. So you're looking at like people that's like more affluent. I didn't have no issue with that. It was just that I couldn't adjust to the racism that existed, and not being equipped, because this is new. Mm-hmm. And so now once I become confrontational, then now I'm going to become predatory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now if we kind of bring us back into, so we went to Kentucky, we left, then we came back this way, and then ultimately we had a battle with addiction.
Right, and see, and that's a good segue because we're talking about, like, when I come back into the District of Columbia, it's in the 70s, and the drug addiction epidemic in the District of Columbia and in the nation is bad. You know, when you look at the American Gangster, Frank Matthews, when you look at that story, you put that story into the reality of the country. And, he talking about selling blue magic, but a lot of people on the East Coast was getting drugs from there. And then now, drugs is like heavily into the community. And I remember my first encounter. I ran across a guy. I was going down to my sister's house. I ran across a guy that was in Job Corps with me. And he told me, he said, man, the first time I seen him since I've been out, we both have seen each other. And we, talking about Job Corps. Both of us dropped out of Job Corps. And he was saying, like, so I'm asking what he doing. He say, man, I'm selling drugs. I don't know nothing about what that is. I'm like, selling drugs? He said, yeah, I got dollar pills. So I said, dollar, and I'm trying to get all the ins and outs of it, right? He said, yeah, he showed them to me, right? I said, well, give me 5 of them, right? And then they in capsules, so I'm thinking you swallow them. But I don't know, so when I get to where I'm going at, bring it to my brother-in-law's attention, who unbeknownst to me at the time was a drug addict and was using. And I say, look, this is what the guy gave me, right? And so he showed me how to, snort it. That opened the door up for, now I'm in an environment that, okay, all the depression, all the things going on with me, I got something that can make me feel comfortable with that.
Play games like